there is value in what you offer when it's sold correctly and presented in correct fashion. Truly, and this sounds obnoxious, right? Price doesn't matter.
Woo! Let's do this. Super excited about our next mastermind that's coming up with Bear. He is an expert in sales and everything CRM. You're going to want to be involved in this because CRMs will change your business. It'll change how you handle, how you communicate, and what you sell.
My name's Bear. I work for Service Autopilot. I just got promoted to senior AE, so it's a new role within sales where I'll be responsible for just doing more hands-on demonstration of the product for potential members, getting them to understand how the benefits of their business, and it's a really great opportunity for me to really dive in with prospective members. And find out the problems that they're having in their business and how we could potentially solve them. We may not be able to solve them. And you know what? I think that kind of goes into what we're talking about today.
Can't put a round peg in a square hole. There's not one silver bullet, not a fix-all. It's truly important to find out, what kind of service a person needs, what problem you're fixing, and making sure you can correctly do that. Not try to scam them off on it. Just throw it everywhere.
I think inherently, if you have an enthusiasm for sales or for business, or if you're trying to grow a business in general, you run into the problem of being over enthusiastic. Of course, you're passionate about what you're doing. It's your passion. It's your business. In my case, it's my role. I've never had the opportunity of owning my own business. I'm very passionate about what I do. And so enthusiasm is great. It's infectious, but sometimes it can get the best of you. And so the idea that we really hone in on is you can't always fix a square peg in a round hole. There isn't a silver bullet, like you said. No solution is perfect. Your business is not perfect. You have gaps in your business. There are gaps in solutions as well. And so, but as long as you're transparent with your customer, then it's okay. If you're offering a service to a customer and a customer asks a specific question about that service that you do not address, it's a hard no. You got to stay with the hard no. You don't do it. Because if you make the exception there, or if you even waffle just a little bit, it's always ever going to be. It's going to be exception after exception after exception. It's going to be problem after problem after problem. I managed an agency, managed a sales team in insurance sales for 10 years. And the single biggest problem that I encountered was the fact that not only did I outsell everybody else on my team, not only did I have to sell everything, but I was also managing every person I ever sold. So I was selling, and if I promised something, I had to deliver. I had to make sure that it was delivered every single time. And as you grow your business, that's not scalable. That's not scalable on a sales rep level. How the heck can that be scalable on a business level? If you're touching every single thing. So the important thing is to be not only realistic, but also transparent. And so when you're transparent with your prospects, it goes a long way. And that's where we kind of go with Service Autopilot. When I'm talking to potential business owners about how Service Autopilot can solve problems for them, I have no problem telling them when Service Autopilot isn't able to do something. I also have no problem telling them that there's a workaround. There's not a magic button. There's a couple of magic buttons to get to where they need to go.
Hit them in the sequence.
I think the important thing all the way down boils down to just simply empathy.
Something that I'm sure you'd agree with that I always do that kind of goes right in line with that is just over-educate them about, I want to hit them with all the problems. The things that were even around that situation, any other things that may come up that might not be good. I like being very upfront about that, as much as possible, so they know 100% what they're getting into. Pretty much the same thing you said, with even more little pieces, little tidbits, just to know, so they know I'm authentic. I'm not holding anything back. I'm telling you, here's A, B, and C. You might not even have this, but this could happen to you. And I want you to know those are some of the worst case scenarios, just so you're educated about what we're doing here.
Education is key in anything that you're doing, because when you educate the customer, I think, and it's inherently something that so many people are afraid of, business owners alike, and I think it boils down to simple pride. There's so much pride for business owners specifically, because listen, it takes incredible confidence to start, run, and be successful in business. So when you've actually hit that point, giving up any of that power, any of that responsibility, it's hard.
It's a challenge.
I think that was probably one of the best things And first things that I learned when I was talking to small business owners, acknowledging the success that they've had and acknowledging just how hard they've worked to get to where they're at. We were talking about this yesterday in a very candid conversation with about just owning expectations and acknowledging a problem. So to give you an example, what we were talking about yesterday was, we were talking about pricing. When you're selling anything, candy bars, landscape, software, or in my case, my fun job, a cigar, price is going to come up. At some point with somebody, price will come up. What am I paying for? Or why am I paying for that? Or why, or if someone will try to negotiate with you. Again, kind of what we were talking about a second ago. First of all, you need to stand firm on whatever the scenario calls for. You need to stand firm, but also accept responsibility for it. Yeah, you may not, in your case, you're the business owner, so you dictated the pricing. But in my case, I'm not. I didn't dictate the pricing. But still, I need to take ownership of that. And here's how I do that. There's a pain still there, but I'm also acknowledging the problem, which is still with me.
Yes.
And my problem is, and this is exactly what I've said, and this is exactly what I'll continue to say. You know what? I understand where you're coming from. It is extra money. It is more money than you're probably considering spending. And I want to apologize to you because clearly I didn't do a good job of explaining the value to you. You can turn that around on any product because there is value in what you offer. And when you offer, and when it's sold correctly and presented in correct fashion, truly, and this sounds obnoxious, right? Price doesn't matter.
I can't agree with you more. The price is irrelevant. Maybe some people are extremely price sensitive and it's always going to you're going to have issues, but 9 times out of 10, it's completely irrelevant. It's 100% about the value. And it's such a good spin on it to put that somewhere I've dropped the ball there. If you were not, I haven't showed you enough for you to see what this is and why this is actually probably a better price. I feel like this is totally affordable, maybe even too low price for all the benefits you're going to get out of this.
Because this lesson goes back to all the way back to my insurance days. And I could never for the life of me understand when I have a customer who's trying to get insurance on, I'm not kidding you, a Maserati, Ferrari, Cadillac. just like these obnoxiously priced items. The person I was talking to, and I remember this very clearly, that this was probably this might actually be a light bulb moment of when I actually learned this lesson. And that was the fact that I assumed that I knew where he was coming from. So he was giving me a really hard time on a very reasonably priced policy. And I knew that from the assets that he was trying to protect that, he's got the money, what does it matter?
Yeah.
And the truth of the matter is that I didn't understand the situation. And the situation was that he was trying to get by because he had been successful at one time, but he had hit some rough patch. And these were assets that, this was during the crash. He couldn't move them. He couldn't move them.
Just lost.
Because it was just, it was just an absolute loss for him. And so he was looking at the most inexpensive way to protect them at some level so that he could buy time essentially until he could move on from or get back on his feet or whatever. But my assuming of his position really damaged the value of what I was trying to sell. I want to make sure that people understand I'm not flip-flopping. Price did matter in that case, but it understood because I didn't understand the inherent problem. That's where I failed.
Yes.
And that's where he wasn't picking up what I was throwing down because I didn't know what he was throwing down.
I see.
And so when you have a great understanding of the person's problem, it can go all the way. And so one of the things that I think that people there when you're selling something, people get lost on, and your listeners and viewers might have this issue too, is that Bear, like my clients don't have problems. Like I'm just I get this all the time. I'm just a lawn guy. It frustrates me to no end to hear that. And it doesn't frustrate me in the sense that I get angry with them. I get angry with the fact that, and it's not even anger, it's just frustration, that they don't have the respect for themselves that I have for them. They've built a successful business. We just talked about this a minute ago. You have incredible confidence. You have incredible passion about what you do. You've built a successful business. You're looking for a solution to make it better. You're looking to better yourself. And then all what you're trying to tell me is that now you're just this. You're not. Because I guarantee you, your customers are your customers view you that way because you view yourself that way. A buzzword that you hear quite a bit a lot of the time is accountability. And accountability is one of those terms that gets thrown around a lot of bit. You have to hold yourself accountable. You have to hold your people accountable. It's one of those words that gets thrown out a lot, but rarely is it ever executed. And if it's ever executed, it's executed not very well. But if you can, there's going to be success that inevitably is on the other side of that.
Yeah.
So, but the important thing, the problem with accountability is that you have to be honest. And honesty scares people. Exactly what I was saying earlier about fitting a square peg into a round hole. A great example. And we have a mutual friend who's also a member of Service Autopilot that gave away $200,000 in business because it was just not in line with what they were doing anymore. He lost $200,000 and it made his business better, but he made it back in other areas where he could focus more and made a better policy. The same thing goes here. I had an incredible opportunity to sell Service Autopilot to a very large company that could have their subscription with Service Autopilot would have made me look like a hero.
Yeah.
Except for what I saw down the line was a huge problem from a supports perspective, from a training perspective, from their execution perspective. They were going to have to build in so many workarounds. They were going to have to manipulate the system in such a way, and they were in an industry that has completely niche. They were thoroughly convinced, even though I was telling them no. I was telling them no. They were thoroughly convinced, and it took all of my sales ability to not sell them.
Yes.
To convince them not to do it.
Yeah.
It took every ounce of effort and way too much strength to, frankly, to get them off the phone and to continue to search for another possibility.
And that's admirable, because instead of, sometimes in a situation like that, it would be so easy to just
look at the dollar signs.
To look at the dollar signs, look at, especially in your position as an employee of the company, the upsides of commissions, the upside of everyone really seeing a huge opportunity, huge sale like that, and realizing that this is, although all the numbers look great, the end game of this is bad for not just the customer, bad for the company, bad for everyone involved in this as it goes down the line.
So this all goes back to the point of being honest. It's okay to say no. And I think that that's a problem that so many of us face, especially, from a sales perspective. You don't want to say no.
Yes.
You don't want to say no. Because you want to, and at least from my perspective, it's not even about greed. People are probably going to sit like, oh, this guy's completely full of it. He cares about the money. Yeah, I want to take care of my family. You're absolutely right. I want to make sure I get a paycheck.
Yep.
You're absolutely right. But at the end of the day, I also want to help people. And that's why I got into insurance in the first place. But that's why I transitioned over to Service Autopilot, was I found a unique opportunity to help small business owners. When I was selling insurance, I found a niche that I was helping because nobody in my office figured out how to sell small business insurance because it was just too difficult. There's too many ins and outs. And what I found was all it took was a conversation and deeper diving. But on the flip side of it, the reward for me was a lot greater. And so I invested in small business owners, and I found that I fell in love with small business ownership. That's why I transitioned over to Service Autopilot, was because I found an opportunity to help them. So inevitably, that's what I want to do, is I want to help everybody out there that owns a small business, and my enthusiasm can kind of get the best of me. I remember I kind of reflect kind of fondly on my interview into the company, and I just had these wild ideas about how I thought Service Autopilot could be applied. Frankly, I don't know why they hired me. Because just we're talking about fitting square pegs in round holes. I'll be like, Service Autopilot can work for this and that. I really see it going places and doing this. Yeah. And we're definitely going places. Not anywhere near what I was thinking. I mean, I wasn't, and it was obviously ignorance at that point. But I think
it's easy to get carried away.
I think they saw my enthusiasm, and that was probably the winning ticket. They're like, well, at least we could probably rein him in.
Looking for employees, you can train a lot of things, but you can't train attitude. So that's probably where you got them right there.
And nevertheless, I'm here, and much like my wife, I tricked him into committing to me. So
some of the pushback, since we're talking about sales and now we're getting back into the conversation of Service Autopilot as well, what are some of those things that you get pushback on? Those things that always come up, because I'd like to kind of share my thoughts and hear what you're hearing a lot from people looking for a solution.
We're talking about pricing and stuff, but I think you get pushback on everything too, because when you're dealing with people, you're dealing with all sorts of backgrounds, all sorts of education levels. all sorts of insight. Inevitably, you're going to run across the people that have a general understanding of what they want accomplished, and so they want to tell you inevitably how you want to do your job. And so that's probably the biggest pushback that is the most difficult to deal with. The pricing is easy, but the most difficult is the pushback of telling me how the product should function, or how they need the product to function in order for them to make the decision. Again, that goes back to transparency, right? And just being honest and upfront with them. It's really easy for me to handle the pushback on how the product should function, because it's solved by two easy things. One, the fact, listen, man, you're talking to the wrong guy. I'm a sales guy. I don't develop this. I don't know how to build it. I just know how to use it, and I know it works. The second thing is this very simple question, turning it back on them. You want the solution to solve this particular problem this particular way. How are you solving it currently? How is it being solved currently?
And how well is that working
and how's that working out for you? Yeah. You know, the comparison that we can kind of draw in your world is like, well, I think I want the pergola to be built this way, and there's no physics just doesn't allow it. Right. That's an easy turnaround on that. It'd be like, it can't be done. Well, what do you mean it can't be done? Well, it's physically not possible. Well, I want it to be done. Finding alternatives to the solution, or just flat not doing it at all. And so the idea is to turn it back on and helping them realize this isn't about turning it back on them and making them realize that they're stupid. Because they're not. They have certain needs. And so when the customer always has needs, you have to fulfill that need one way or another. If you can get them to understand and to realize, like, it's either simply out of the realm of possibility to the degree of it's incredibly difficult, or flat out, this could be done. It is out of the realm of my expertise. It is outside the realm of what I'm comfortable doing. Let me refer someone who can. And so that's why it's important to build the network too, and of understanding of what you're talking about when you're talking to different people and everything.
Well, this is fantastic. I love getting to spend some time, see how you think, see how you operate in your role, talk about a little bit of these things you get pushback from, or the different things that go on, and really seeing how you handle. There's a lot to be said for someone that is not just trying to push everyone into something just for the sale. That is trying to make sure that this fits for them and that's going to better their business, because that bettering their business and having a software like this could also change your life, because a lot of entrepreneurs are a reflection of their business, and their business is a reflection of them. So Bear, it was great talking to you today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Let's go grab a cigar.
I'm so in love.